welcome to Team Tad. Ba, 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 ba. Yeah, can you blow a kiss? No? Okay. You can be free now. Okay, so today's video is beginning of our Tad journey. Tad's running around in his walker. I'm sure you can hear him, Darth Vader, breathing next to us. My name is Micheline.
I'm Tyler.
And obviously everyone knows Tad, who's currently playing. So, beginning of Tad, so we're going to kind of go story time all the way back to before Tad was even born. So, the utero diagnosis.
That was fun.
Yeah. I don't know if I would describe it as fun. So, kind of started off as a weird pregnancy. We thought we miscarried a few times, and then did miscarry, and then we went in for, I guess, side note is that I come from a Catholic family. And my grandparents are extremely Catholic. And so to tell them I was pregnant when Tyler and I were not married was quite the, I was so scared. That was it was a horrible conversation. My grandparents are amazing and they were fine about it, but it was just really embarrassing.
Meanwhile, my dad's just like,
Yeah.
okay.
So I was 23.
You were like 24, I was 22.
I think I found out when I was 23.
He's 2 now, and I'm 25, you're 26, so I was 23, and you were 25.
4. Okay. Yeah, but I found out when I was 23 and then had him when I was 24. No kidding. You crazy? So, that was fun. And then, right after we told them, then we found out about Tad's heart defect. And another side note is that my dad was born a twin. So my dad's name is Michael, and the twin's name was Micheline. And long story short, they ended up finding out that Micheline, they didn't have what they have today in regards of like ultrasounds and stuff. So they found out after Micheline was born that she had a heart condition, and they tried to do surgery, and the surgery didn't work, and she ended up passing when she was about 18 months, I believe. So to tell my grandparents, one, that their granddaughter is having a baby out of wedlock, and then to come back and tell them, and the baby's got a heart defect, when I was named after Micheline, was kind of a horribly ironic thing. So we get through all that. The regular OB, we had the amnio at 18 weeks, which is a little bit early. And I remember, do you remember, he said like, oh, he's sitting Buddha style and we can't see everything, so I need you to come back in 2 weeks. I knew when I left that appointment, do you remember me going crazy? And I was like,
he was
Googling.
focusing on the heart. Focusing on the heart.
I was like, something's wrong, and he's like, no, it's fine. We'll just wait till it happens.
What was I supposed to do?
I know, but I knew at that point something was wrong. So then we go back in, but I was just trying to be positive because Tyler's yelling at me to be positive.
I was not yelling at you.
So then we go back in 2 weeks, and at that point he hadn't fully even said the gender, right? Because I think at that
he kept saying since real early that I think we got a boy here, but don't quote me until then.
Until the actual 20-week scan. So at that scan, he did see, and I clearly saw like one underdeveloped ventricle in Tad's heart. So from that point, he said that, this is kind of outside of my realm. So he referred us to
high risk.
Yeah, or a fetal maternal OB. So he was just kind of like, I loved our OB, and he was just like, it'll be fine, everything's fine. So then we had to wait like 2 weeks, and we went to him, and they did a fetal echo and like a full scan, and that like the worst day. That was probably worse than like now, even looking back on all Tad's surgeries, like those are really horrible, but that day was just so, I don't know. I don't want to cry, but it was really bad because it was just kind of like I remember the echo lady was doing the echo and she was like all chatty and talking to us, and then all of a sudden she like stopped talking to us, and I could just feel in the air that like something was really wrong. So I started like crying on the table because I was just like, I know this is not going to be good, whatever. So then she leaves and she's like, I'll send the doctor in. The doctor comes in. Hello. Yeah, just like you, barging on in. You want me to pick those up? Okay. So the fetal maternal doctor walks in, and he isn't even in like, I think he just like introduced himself, and he was like, okay, so we saw the baby does have a heart defect called HLHS, or hypoplastic left heart syndrome, and he also has a cleft lip and palate. And when we see 2 defects, that's a red flag for trisomy. And basically it was just like, do you want to terminate the pregnancy?
Yeah, it was basically like, all right, here's the bad news, ready to abort?
And it was just kind of like, he said it so fast, and maybe he didn't even say it that fast, but it was just kind of like, everything was just like,
they're desensitized to it.
Yes, but technically at that point, oh my goodness, Tio. At that point in my pregnancy, I was already 25 weeks, and that's pretty much the cutoff here, you want my phone? You threw it outside. It's pretty much the cutoff to have an abortion, and that wasn't something that I wanted, and Tyler.
We basically, knew that it was going to be rough, but as long as the baby wasn't going to be suffering throughout life, then we were going to give him a chance. And that if that every day was going to be terrible for the child, then we might consider it, but other than that, it was not an option.
And at that point, so we left that appointment, and he was kind of like, okay, if you don't do the amnio, or if you don't do the abortion, then I recommend you do an amnio and we find out if this baby has trisomy. Just basically saying, like, we either need to know if this baby has trisomy, is going to pass right after it's born, or if you're doesn't have any type of trisomy and you want to relocate so that this baby has a chance. So I actually called my aunt, the aunt that we currently live with, and whoa! And whoops, now I messed up. And at that point, we actually weren't that close with my aunt. Oh, now it's all on you.
I'm the star.
No, you're not. She's the star. We actually weren't that close, and I remember calling her, and I was like hysterical. And I just kind of like told her what happened, and she was just like, you need to do an amnio, and we need to find out if this baby has a chance. And if this baby has a chance, then you need to relocate. And if not, then you'll have this baby, and you'll wait for him to pass. It's so horrible. That was such a hard day. And then I remember you had to just go to work. And then I was just like, I cried. I cried so much. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it was so horrible. So then, oh my gosh, it makes me want to cry. It sucks. It's so sad thinking about it.
Aunt Lauren was very, very medical about it up front, and she didn't want to get attached to him, I guess, and that now they're inseparable.
Yeah, Aunt Lauren loves Tad. But so back to that. So then it was also like we had to tell our families. Like it was kind of rough because like yes, it really affected us, but then it was also like everybody knew that we were pregnant at this point, and
we just broke the news like a week before that, I think.
Yeah, because we waited until I was pretty far along before we told my family.
The safe period.
Yeah, the safe zone. So then we decided we were going to go ahead and do the amnio. So we scheduled that, but it took a while to even schedule the amnio. The amnio was terrible.
They put a needle in you, and that's like
and then Tyler goes, looks like they're like pulling bug juice out. And I was like, you are horrible to have around for things like this. Anyways, so we got that, and then we had to wait like another 2 weeks, and that was horrible too because it was just like we were living in this such unknown. Like, do we plan a baby shower? Do we not plan a baby shower? Do we like buy things for the baby? Do you prepare for a baby? We we were thinking about moving like into our own place because at the time we had a roommate, lived with a roommate, and it was just really hard because it was just kind of like we were just living like I'm a planner. Yeah. Oh yeah, my phone in the toilet. Jeez. He's crazy. So that was rough. It was definitely like that was really hard. And then we finally got the call back, and they told us everything looked fine. So then at that point
well, genetically.
Yeah, from the AMEO, they told us everything looked fine.
Turns out they don't really test for that much in that anyways.
Yeah.
Found out later he has Chart syndrome.
He does have a genetic syndrome. Yeah, which that's a whole nother story time because that was also another really hard pill to swallow. Anyways, so we went to our appointments every 2 weeks, and then at that point we had started researching what the best heart surgeon was going to be. Which was Tad's heart surgeon that we had, and we ended up traveling. So we used to live in the panhandle of Florida, and we ended up traveling all the way down to the end of Florida to meet with who is, in our eyes, the best person for Tad's heart defect. And we met with him, and we toured the hospital. We met with Tad's current pediatric cardiologist, which is so funny to look back on like that first day we met them all.
They're all great people.
They are. Great
Dr.
people.
Burke's awesome too. Shout out to him. The man didn't even, we didn't, we just said, hey, can we meet with you? He said yes. We came down and he sat us in his office on very busy man for, well, it could be like almost 4 hours. I think.
It was like an hour.
It was not. It was like 2 or 3 hours.
No, because we were.
It was a long, whatever. It was a long time, and it was not. It was like 3 hours, and he, at the end of it, he was still just talking to us like it was a normal conversation. We got past all the medical talk, all the medical speak. What he could do for us, what he was going to do to help us, and make sure that this wasn't our fault, and this and that and the other, and this just happens, and he's going to give us a great chance. And then he's like, all right, we started talking about when we're going to go get lunch. After that, he's just a great guy. No rush to get us out of the office, just wanted to talk to us and make sure we were okay. I can mention names. Dr. Burke is awesome.
Anyway, so then at that point, my aunt was like, there wasn't a good children's hospital near us. There was a children's hospital up where we're from, but they didn't do surgeries there. So we just kind of decided
the closest one was in Gainesville. That's where they wanted to send us to, which was still going to be about 5 hours away from home.
So then my aunt lives here, so she was just like, come stay with me. We'll get it all sorted out. You can come move in and stay while he's getting his surgeries. And then the whole thing begins. So we move here on a Monday, and then the following Sunday, Tad was born. So it was like
a month early.
Yeah, a month early. It was kind of crazy, like when we look back on it now, everything happened perfectly. But the pregnancy was hard. Like I will not even begin to try to sugarcoat the amount of like stress and just like that unknown feeling of.
We had a bad OB down here.
Yeah.
She basically made it seem like it was all her fault. She was doing all this stuff wrong, and no, honey, this and that. You're not doing this, and you're
I'll
not doing that.
have to insert a picture of what I looked like. Like that was 2 days before I delivered.
Yeah.
I was tiny.
She looked like 3 months pregnant at like full term almost.
Yeah, but I think it was just the way that I was carrying. And Tad was also really small, so when Tad was born, he was only 4 pounds.
He fit in my hands like this.
We'll also have to insert a picture here of what
tiny.
Tad looked like when he was born. But yeah, they basically, which is kind of crazy because they told us like when this baby comes, he's gonna be like really sick and he's gonna be blue and he's gonna be like skin and bones.
We're gonna have to get him on oxygen immediately and this and that.
And it honestly wasn't like that, and it was so weird the way it worked out.
The room lit up when he came.
Let's try to do a speed story of like the day that happened. So the week that we moved here, I went to the doctor's like the next day or something, like my OB, my new OB here, and she was really freaked out about my size, Tad's size. She was really freaked out about his heart defect. So she sent us to get stress tests. I was getting stress tests every other day. So then when I went to the stress test, they were telling me I needed to track fetal movement, but they didn't clarify, and they said track his fetal movements. And they didn't say like after you hit this number, you don't have to track anymore. So I was literally, that was crazy.
She didn't sleep.
I did not. I was so scared because they basically made it seem like it would be a miracle if Tad survived the pregnancy. So they were like, you need to like make sure that if you don't feel any fetal movements in like 2 hours, then you need to get here right now. So I was tracking my food because my OB said that I was not eating enough, and the reason why he was small is because I was malnourishing myself, and it was just towards the end, it got really ugly.
She was a wacko.
I turned into a wacko too, though, because I was so stressed out, and I felt like such a big burden of like, if I don't do this, like I felt like everything was on my shoulders, and I remember being so bitter towards you because I felt like there was so much on my plate, and you're just like, oh, when's it gonna happen? Like, it was, I know, but I was in a really bad headspace at that time. Anyways, so then we're getting stress tests every other day. So we go to the hospital, get the stress test, and then we come back home. Tyler's all excited because he's got this car show that he's about to go to, and we're in the kitchen cooking lunch, and then all of a sudden my water breaks, and then Tyler's like, what's wrong? And
Right about as I'm gonna walk out the door.
well, we were about to put the pizzas in the oven, remember?
Yeah.
We had made the pizzas and we were about to put them in the oven, and then after we ate, you were gonna go. And then so, because, hi. Oh, you busy again?
We didn't get our pizza. I had to
No.
come home and clean it up that night for 2 seconds.
Yeah, so all of a sudden, do you want me to pick it up? Yeah. All of a sudden, my water breaks, and then we were off, and we had to go back to the hospital when we had just drove from the hospital after getting my stress test. Yeah, when you were in my belly. Yeah, you were. And then it just so happened we had like I was going every other day to get these stress tests, so we got along really well with this OB that was there.
She was from Pensacola, which is where we were driving an hour to go get that.
She was from like where we were from, so we kind of like clicked. And then we asked her that day, can't you just deliver me? And she goes, no, the only way we'd be able to do that is if you came in an emergency. And then what do you know?
We came in an emergency.
Yep.
And the nurse who we got along with, Anianti.
Yeah. She was so amazing. It was seriously like the day that I delivered, we were definitely being watched over, and everything happened in this like perfect, look at him go. In this like perfect, like, I don't even know. It was like, I can't even describe it. It was amazing, and I was so nervous, and the nurse like was supposed to be done with her shift, and she stayed so that she could be with me, and it was just amazing. And the OB ended up delivering me, the one that was from back home, not my OB down here, because my OB was actually out of town, and it was just perfect. She was amazing. And little Theodore was born, and he cried before he even came out. You want me?
It's the weirdest sounding cry I've ever heard in my life. It didn't seem real.
I know.
It's so cartoonish.
I think we were just like prepared because they basically like.
They were just gonna say that he'll be lucky to make it through this, and he's gonna be tiny and blue and probably gonna die, and we're gonna have him on all this stuff right when he comes out, and then he came out and it was perfect score.
But he was tiny, but he was like chunky. He wasn't like skin and bones.
You could just tell the energy in the room kind of lit up right when he came though.
And the nurse goes, that wasn't a one, because he was diagnosed with, when we moved down here for that week, he was diagnosed with intrauterine growth restriction.
Yeah.
So basically saying that Tad was tiny and talk. So tiny TO, and so the nurses were like, that was not a 1 percentile baby. Did you see him? And he had all this hair. It was such a crazy experience. I didn't get to hold him.
They yanked me and him away and took us to the NICU where there was like 30 people in the room all yelling for for my attention. Cardiologist was there. It was a real big excitement.
Yeah.
And then
I had a C-section, so I went into recovery, and we had him Monday night at like 8:15.
It was Sunday.
Sunday night at 8:14 p.m. You don't want me to touch your leg?
Well, no. Don't touch me.
And so then Tad was stable when he was born. He actually didn't need to be on any oxygen or anything, so they went ahead and transferred him to the Children's Hospital, which I delivered at the hospital that was 15 minutes away.
It's right down the street. It's not even 15. It's literally like 2 streets, 3 streets away.
Yeah, really close. So and Tyler, I was like, you go stay with Tad. So Tyler went and stayed with Tad, and then I stayed at the hospital recovery for all of Sunday night, and then Monday they wouldn't let me go because I had a C-section, but they let me go Tuesday morning. And Tad had his first surgery Wednesday early morning. So that's kind of like the very beginning of Tad. Thank you so much. Yeah. You want it? There's so many other things that I'm sure would be like very shortened.
It's a glimmer of what happened.
But we definitely, so this kind of like brings me to like why I really wanted to start this channel. Why I share so much on my Instagram is that when we first got the diagnosis of Tad's heart condition, when I was pregnant, the first thing that I did, even though everyone told me, don't Google, don't look at anything, that was how I was like able to kind of cope with things.
You gotta educate yourself on what's coming to you.
Yeah, so I looked up on Instagram, like HLHS, I just typed it in, and I actually found a few other families that I still keep in contact with today, and just having the support of families who've already been through it I cannot even begin to describe like how much it just kind of like helped me during that time. So I'm sure to some people some of this stuff is weird, but I hope that if
we can help.
Yeah, even if it's just helping one family not feel
Tad, close the door behind us.
Okay. Not feel so alone during such a dark time, then I feel like all of this is worth it. And the other thing is that Tad is such a joy to us, and we know that he's a miracle, and we know that, you know, he's here for a reason, and we're excited that, thank you so much. Thank you. You want it back now? That he's here for a reason, and we're grateful that we get to share him. So, I hope you enjoyed our story time.
And our narration.
Yeah. You'll get to kind of know us a little bit more from YouTube videos like this rather than like our Instagram stories, because if you follow both of us on Instagram, his whole page is just Tad and cars, and my whole page is just Tad and me. Excuse you! And me complaining about stuff or venting about stuff. So this is kind of like turns us into like more of a family channel. So we're excited to continue to share. If there's any story times that you're interested in hearing, message us or comment below, and we'll see you in the next one.